Certainly what we're seeing with the customers using Managed Platform currently is a change in that threat itself. So the last year or two we saw a large number of ransomware infections, and the standard type of ransomware infection where we see the lock screens, the demand for a payment in Bitcoin to release your data and allow you to carry on working with what you're working. And actually what we're seeing is now that threat's not gone away, but the number of it's not increasing at the same rate it was over the last year or two. That threat has now changed to we're seeing more of the crypto mining type infections now. So actually people's systems being exploited, but rather than demanding the Bitcoin, they're just using your systems to mine it themselves. Crypto mining is slightly different than the standard ransomware in terms of it doesn't present a normal like ransom screen. It's not saying you can't have your files back until you pay so much money. Crypto mining infections generally run in the background, so you will see little to no effect visually from the actual system that is infected, but your performance will be absolutely terrible because essentially your processor and graphics card and memory is being used to run processes that you've not requested. So a normal PC you might have InTouch or Historian or something like that open that's actually running a process or an application, or it could just be an Office PC that's running Word, Excel, PowerPoint, that sort of things. A normal day-to-day operation, used to like you double click a file, it opens in a couple of seconds. An infected system will still open the files, it doesn't stop you getting to them, but actually what you'll see is it takes that little bit longer. And that's because in the background there's more of these processes running that are just running, if you like, floating point calculations to mine cryptocurrency. So actually, if you like, run algorithms and actual like scientific calculations basically to try and crack codes that then essentially release the coins into their possession. So essentially they're using your processor time and your memory and your essentially your system as part of a distributed network. So if you've only got one computer and you're trying to legitimately mine cryptocurrencies, it's a slow, laborious task and it takes a long time to release anything. So they amplify their effect of this by compromising vulnerable systems, systems are not patched, not the latest, greatest, and essentially put that distributed process onto these systems. So therefore, if they've got 100,000 infected machines, they've got 100,000 machines doing that crypto mining, which means they see greater results faster. So they're not actually demanding the money off you, they're mining it themselves, just using your computer in the background. So in terms of operation, you might find that your PC is running slow. You wouldn't see that traditional lock screen, you just see terrible performance, it just runs as if something's not working correct. Okay, so if we compare a typical Office PC, the sort of thing that runs Excel, PowerPoint, Word, emails, crypto mining wouldn't have much of an effect on that system, or not a noticeable effect. So if you were opening a spreadsheet or an email and your system takes a couple of seconds longer to respond, typically most people write that off either it's an aged laptop, it's a slow internet connection, it's a normal Monday morning and things are not quite working as well as they should do. In the OT space, that's a very different sector. So the time criticality of applications and processes that are running, these things can't be interrupted. So if you're taking historian data out and putting it into a database, that's going to happen quickly. If an InTouch application is trying to read something and there's a delay on it, that could have impact on production. There's a lot more sensitivity to timely responses in applications. So if your PC doesn't respond for 20-30 seconds after you've hit stop on a system because there's a problem or actually something's jammed or the process needs to be ended, those seconds of delay can have massive implications in terms of lost production, in terms of cost, in terms of lost data. Particularly if we just look at things like the historian data, and it's quite technical, but transaction rollbacks. So if the system can't actually get those entries into the log files to put into the database, it starts to roll them back as it understands there's an error. So just the system running as bad as it does can have massive implications on the data you've got stored, which will affect the trends, which can affect your overall kind of effectiveness of the equipment when you're looking at this amount of data. So if you've got data missing because it's not been able to capture it, or it's timed out because it's running so badly, it can have huge knock-on effects. So from a very high level view, the first thing is understand what your network's doing. So kind of an annual audit, not a one-off audit, or understanding, just trusting the diagrams you've got have never changed. Networks are living, breathing things and are always being patched and and people are always trying to fix things when they go wrong. And I would say that if you've got a document set on day one, by the end of the year that document set's probably out of date because there's been changes, fixes, things added, things replaced, and keeping that documentation up to date is a great idea. But equally, have a third party do your network audit, not yourselves. And the pure reason for that is if you understand your network, how it should work, how it should operate, you go into that doing your audit with a bias. You know roughly what you should be looking for, and there's a much more sensible approach into putting someone else in to do it who has no bias of what your operation does, what your network should do. They will look at it with a much more wider view of what it's currently doing and where things are going wrong and where the security concerns are. So auditing the network is something I would recommend people do on a yearly basis by absolute minimum. Secondly, monitoring. So it's all very well and good knowing what your network does, but actually monitoring what it's doing on a day-by-day basis in terms of CPU utilization on particular systems, what systems are connected, what processes are running, and kind of get a baseline of what normal day-to-day operation looks like. So therefore, when the anomalies appear that are away from the baseline, you can spot them quickly. So that's kind of the proactive front-end side of it, making sure that you know what your network's doing and you know what's going on the network, but likewise have a very, very resilient plan B. If something does go wrong, have the tools there and the procedures that have been tested and the people are trained on if something does go wrong, they know how to recover from it. So a great DR plan that's tested on a 6-month basis is what I would say an absolute minimum that's required. So we have a wide range of tools and services that we can utilise to help customers be better prepared for these sort of things, detect them when they do happen, also recover from them should the worst occur. So we offer a range of network audits and network training for OT engineers, so we can actually understand what the network currently looks like, understand where the threats are, and actually then help train people to build better networks and be more cybersecurity aware when doing upgrades and extensions in future. We also have the ability to do security posture assessments. So we can take a section of network traffic from the current network and actually understand what information is flowing to where and understand any risks and vulnerabilities we may spot in that. We've also got a great set of tools that we use with Clarity. And Clarity is an OT-centric intrusion detection and anomaly-based monitoring system. So absolutely engineered for the OT environment. It's not an IT tool that doesn't understand these protocols. It does know all these industrial protocols inside out. So it's a great tool for anyone who's kind of got cybersecurity at the top of their priority list at the moment. Now we also have Auxilia monitoring. So Auxilia allows us to look in real time at all the critical elements of the operation and the infrastructure. So we can monitor everything that's on the network through to individual services and applications on the actual servers or workstations themselves. So by taking a baseline to begin with, we can understand when the differences appear. So the likes of cryptomining, ransomware, virus infections, applications just running badly and causing knock-on problems. Those sort of things we can spot in real time and actually allows us to be preventative and rather than reactive with the maintenance plans. And finally, if something were to go wrong, we have Proteus, which is our BCDR technology. So something we've worked on for about 5 years, and it is kind of considered the best in class in terms of OT backup technology. So it is designed for these OT environments. We know we've partnered with Datto for numerous years, and there's been extensive development work done to actually make sure that we can protect these systems, but also make sure that data is recoverable. And we've numerous recovery options, so if the worst were to happen, we've got the ability to isolate the existing hardware, virtualize an image and actually carry on production. We can restore and actually boot things in the cloud. We can take a physical machine and make it virtual. We've got so many different restore options, and we take high frequency backups that in the event of a disaster, we can get you back up and running in a matter of minutes, not hours, not days, etc.